Hey all, welcome back to Neon's Movie Reviews. I'm Neon, this is my review channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 1998's Joel Schumacher film, 8mm. Before I dive into that though, just want to say, if you enjoy my content, please give this video a like, really helps out the channel. And we are a couple weeks into the Summer of Nic Cage, and I still have a couple more weeks of this to go through, so if you want to see a lot more content like this, go ahead and subscribe, and if you actually want to get a notification, just hit the little bell in the corner. But 8mm. This is a film that I'd heard about for a long time. I just saw it for the first time, and I know it had gotten very mixed reactions. It's grew a cult following over the years, but I was always very skeptical on it. Mostly just because it's a Joel Schumacher movie. I don't have issues with Joel Schumacher, but I don't particularly like him as a director. I think he's done some really good work, but for the most part, his work is just fine. He's 9 times out of 10, I feel like he's a studio director. It's very rare that I see a film of his where I feel like, oh, this is something that he wanted to make. And even this one, I don't really feel that this was a film that he really was desperately trying to make, but definitely he was much more involved in this than the studio was. So this is definitely not a studio film. But yeah, really interesting film. Basically, you've got Nick Cage, who is a private investigator. He's hired by this very wealthy family after the patriarch of the family has passed, and they've uncovered in his secret vault this 8mm film that appears to be a snuff film. And for those of you unfamiliar, snuff film is basically a sexualized, not even sexualized, but it's a film of actual murder taking place, usually with sexual connotations, not necessarily in the act itself, but more in why it's been filmed and for why the viewer is actually watching it. So he's basically hired by the wife of this family to basically find out if this is real or not. And if it's real, find out who the girl was that was killed in the movie, and let's put this to bed. If it's not real, awesome, you move on, everything is good. And Nick Cage, he's the private investigator. He starts investigating, starts uncovering the really seedy side of the world, and starts seeing shit that just changes him to his core. Really fascinating character progression for him. There's a lot of stuff that was set up with him and his wife, played by Catherine Keener as well, that I really enjoyed. He's smoker. She's constantly nagging not even nagging at him, but constantly pointing out to him that, you know, I can smell the smoke, you're still smoking, and he's just like, no I'm not. And basically whenever he's working, he's smoking. And it's becomes an issue between them, as well as many other things, but it's just kind of that first inkling that maybe their relationship isn't the best. Maybe they're a little rocky. But great cast all around. You've got Nick Cage, you got Catherine Keener, you've got Peter Stormare, James Gandolfini, Joaquin Phoenix, and a bunch of other people that you'd be like, I know that guy, you just don't know their name. But I should say, this is an Andrew Kevin Walker script. Andrew Kevin Walker is the same guy who wrote Seven, who did most of the rewrites for Fight Club. He did Sleepy Hollow, and this. This is much closer to Seven. This is definitely that style of movie. It does get very uncomfortable in parts. There are some scenes. When Nick Cage first watches the video, that's probably the best scene in the whole movie, because there's no music. It's just the audio of the film. You see he's watching on a projector. You see a little bit of the film, but mostly we're looking, like, we see the back of the projector screen and him, and we just see his reactions to this. And as things happen, you see him just like, oh, you know, and it really sold it. You're just stuck in that moment. And one thing that as I was doing some research on this, apparently this, and I'm not at all surprised, but apparently this film had to undergo a lot of editing to get an R rating. It was a strong NC-17 originally, which makes sense. It deals with porn and murder and all that kind of stuff. So it's all the things the MPAA does not like. But yeah, because of how they did it, and much like how Seven did this, I find it more disturbing, the scenes, because you can't see it. You just hear it. You know what you're hearing. You know what's actually taking place. But because you're not seeing it, your mind creates it. And it gets disturbing. And then it's just him basically tearing through the underworld, trying to find if this is real, trying to find any leads, who this girl is, whatever. And all he's got to go off of is some unmarked 8mm film. So yeah, really, really interesting film. Joaquin Phoenix, he kind of becomes his right-hand man, his not sidekick, but more of an assistant. He is probably the best character in the whole movie. He's the likable character. He's very fun. He's kind of funny. He's interesting, but once you start getting into that third act, yeah, no, in my opinion, he's the best character in the movie. Followed by Nic Cage, then probably Keener. But Gandolfini did a great job in this. Peter Stormare did a great job. All the cast did a really, really good job. They really sold their performances. There's some set pieces, or not even set pieces, but there's just some scenes in this film that are just so well done, and they're taking you into this other world, or you're just really caught up in the moment with all the characters. Like there's a scene at the end in a house that's just awesome, really good. But there was a couple things I noticed. I'll talk about those more in the spoiler side of this. Just this was a film I had never seen. I had gone almost 20 years without seeing it, with avoiding all spoilers. So if you haven't seen this, I'm going to try to do the same for you. But I would recommend this film. This is a very good film. It's a hard film, though. It's not an easy watch. This is not a movie. This is like Seven. This is not a movie you're just going to, oh, well, all right, what am I feeling today? Oh, yeah, let me toss this on. That'll be fun. No, this is a dark, twisted descent into hell. And some of the things that they deal with, and just kind of like I was saying, because they can't show you a lot of this stuff, but you hear it, you know what they're looking at, you know what's going on, your mind shows you, and that's even worse. Yeah, very uncomfortable film at parts, but overall, really, really good film. Give it a 7 out of 10. There were some issues that I'll talk about in the spoiler side, but really solid film. Yeah, diving into those things, into my issues, the spoiler side. Nothing against any of the performances, but there's a few actors that I was just surprised about. Like, I know they were going for that for what they were going with the film, but just when I saw it, I was just like, oh, what the fuck are you doing here? Like there's a character called the Machine. He's the one that kills the people in the videos. He's in a lot of S&M videos as well. Like he's a weird guy, and you always see him with this mask on, always featured with this mask. And then when you get to see him without the mask, he's just some everyday guy. And I really like that. And I like that they chose the actor that they did choose. But at the same time, so they build it up like this big reveal, and then, but we already saw him like twice before that without his mask on, and we knew that he was this guy. Like there was some doubt because we didn't like see him wear the mask and then take it off, and it was like, oh, okay. But you knew you're in the third act. You're at this point in the film. You know it's him, or it's going to be a big twist, and it's not. But either way, you know that this guy that you just saw twice is the guy that we're supposed to believe is the machine. And for them to have that big reveal at the end with him taking it off and kind of giving a bit of a monologue, it just kind of felt weird. But I felt the script and the film were kind of at odds with each other while watching it. There were some scenes that were, and this, originally I thought this, maybe it was because they were trying to, they had to edit some things out or tweak some things due to the MPAA. But what I think it is basically the studio got cold feet on this. I know, and then they were having Schumacher make some changes to the script, and they trying to work with Andrew Kevin Walker as well on this, and Walker walked away from the project. So you have Andrew Kevin Walker's script with Joel Schumacher's tweaks and edits throughout it, and it feels in parts like it's two separate writers. So that was one thing. I can't really put my finger on it, but there was just little moments here and there where I was just like, that was weird, or just the way the dialogue went or the way the scene flowed. It was just like, this, I feel like this was better beforehand, or something happened with this scene. I mean, there may be some stuff due to editing. I'm not sure. I know one of the scenes involves a character getting beaten to death with the butt of a gun, which was an awesome scene. But it's all done off screen. You just get a couple of hits, and then you see the character walk out. He's covered in blood. The butt of the gun is dripping blood, and that's it. And apparently that scene was much more filmed, because that was one of the scenes that had to be heavily cut out. There's also some scenes between Joaquin Phoenix and Cage that I was a little confused watching the movie, because it was just their relationship just jumped forward. And it was just like, did I miss a scene? Was I like, what's going on? And I did. Apparently there was many scenes involving them that they had to edit because of the pornography that's on behind them, or just the porn that's in the scene of that sequence. They had to cut a lot of their dialogue and scenes, and which sucks, because those scenes where those two are working together are the best scenes in the whole movie. The detective side of this film is the best part of it. Everything else, it's good, but it gets a little schlocky in parts. And that's kind of, once you know going in that this is a real tape. It's gonna be some dirty porno people and somebody that's probably tied into the family, probably still alive, just not the patriarch, and it plays out exactly the way you think. You see these characters and instantly you're just like, that's too big of an actor to just be a bit role. Okay, he's got to be the villain. Yep, okay, he's one of the villains. So you had a lot of that, so it was just very obvious. And then, oh, okay, there's a bunch of nobody's side character, or no-name actors, and then, oh, it's that guy who always plays an asshole or always a villain. Well, he's not really playing an asshole. I'm gonna take a guess that he's gonna be revealed as a villain later on. Oh shit, there he is. So you had a lot of things like that kind of irritated me, but overall, like, really, especially knowing that the writer of the film walked, and director had to, was fixing this stuff just on his own without the writer's input. This film could have been way, way worse. We've seen things like this with Whedon and Snyder's Justice League, or even Suicide Squad, with the studio and the director at odds, and studio basically just taking his film and making their own film out of it. This is nothing on those levels. The Schumacher really respects this film. He was really proud of this film, and he basically, from my understanding, studio was just like, make changes to this so that we can make this a commercially successful film, or this film not happening. And Kevin Walker would rather the film not be made, and Schumacher was like, no, I want to make this film. I understand this was given to me because the studio needed a director, but I'm invested into this. I want to make this. And apparently Amy Pascal also took a lot of heat on this for being kind of the one that greenlit it. And now it's a cult hit and everything. But back in the time, it mediocre money, but yeah, reviews didn't really like it, and from my understanding, it didn't completely flop, but it didn't do well. But yeah, not too much in spoilers. There's like I said, this is a film. The few spoilers I'm talking about here are things that if you are a viewer and you wouldn't know these things going in, because they're not presented to you obviously, sure. But for most people, these are things that you're going to figure out anyway, just while watching the movie. But yeah, so overall, really, really enjoy this movie. Probably not a film I'm going to be rewatching a lot just because of how dark it is, but like Seven, I did have a lot to enjoy in this, and I appreciated where this film went. I'm very curious to see if this film gets better on rewatch or if it gets a little worse. I feel like this is a film that's going to get better on rewatch. But yeah, that's going to wrap this up. Got a lot more of these coming out. Stay tuned for those. Like I said, subscribe, give this video a like, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe, all.